What is up, YouTube? It's a beautiful day. The sun's beating down. I had the radio on. I was driving. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about my 2015 Fiesta ST, and this is my review of my brand new Pumaspeed pulley. So I'm going to talk about what this part is, how you install it, and what are my impressions after driving. So first, let's talk about what is this part. So this is the Pumaspeed uprated pulley. It is the only pulley they make for this car. This is the 14 to 18 Fiesta US spec. So this is the only pulley on the market, so you should not have a hard time finding it. I will have the link to the description, the link in the description of the below, so if you want to buy this product. And also, just so you know, I did a pretty detailed write-up on this install with pictures and everything on fiestastforum.com, and I'll link that also below. So if you want to look at that later, if you're installing one of these and get some more pictures and idea and some more info on it, go for it. But anyhow, this is a water pump pulley. It replaces the stocker right here. So the stock one, according to Pumaspeed, is 485 grams, and it's a pretty heavy pulley. The Pumaspeed is a little bit larger diameter, and it's only 256 grams, according to Pumaspeed. And I didn't weigh it myself, but I trust them. They're a good company. I've got their turbo on my car. It's awesome. I've had no problems at all in about 15,000 miles of spirited driving. So I trust them, so I didn't weigh it. But the pulley, just again talking about what the pulley is. So the pulley, the idea with pulleys is that you have a larger size pulley, and that pulley, actually this stock pulley, will fit inside of the Puma pulley. And the idea is that by having a larger pulley, you have two things that happen. Number one, since it weighs much less, it's less work for the engine to turn it. So what we call parasitic loss, or the required energy needed to turn this big heavy piece of iron. He's like a piece of iron. There's less energy needed. So same principle with lightweight tires. Uh-oh, coming for me. Lightweight tires, same idea, less rotational mass, so the engine has to work less, the drivetrain has to work less, and therefore you have more free power. It's not like you're getting more horsepower from a pulley or tires, it's just that you're freeing power up. So the same principle with a lightweight tire, less rotational mass. So here we also have less rotational mass. And so the engine is working less hard to turn that pulley because it weighs less. At the same time, you're also freeing up power because since that pulley is a larger diameter than the stocker, it therefore underdrives the accessories. So the idea is if you can get just the right balance of less power needed to turn your power steering, pulley pump, your of course your alternator, your air conditioner compressor. And so if you just get just enough, and what Puma did, I think on their website it says 12% less. And so if you compromise a little bit on those, but you know, the idea is not enough to notice, and at the same time you free up a little bit of power for the engine. So again, number one, it's less weight, so it's less rotational mass, and then number two, you're underdriving the other pulleys, so they have to work less hard, and therefore there's more power the engine can use to make you go really fast. And so I tested this, by the way. I didn't do like a dyno before or after, not going to do that, but I did check all my temperatures, oil temperature, my coolant temperature. Everything's checking out. Have not run the air yet because it's winter, but I've done pulleys in the past on an Acura, and I actually had great results. There was no problem with the any of the accessories, so I'm assuming that will be the case again. Again, I trust Pumaspeed, and don't think it'll be an issue. If it is, I can always put the old pulley back on, no big deal. So that's the idea behind pulleys, and in general, people say they add 4 or 5 horsepower. I'll talk about if I think that's true or not in a moment. To install this, kind of the next thing to talk about, what do you need? You need the pulley, you need this belt, and shout out to my good buddy, Daniel Newman. He got me this. This is like 18 bucks or something. He gave it to me for free, so thank you, Daniel. You're awesome. I really appreciate it. This is the JK6 626 Ford belt. And so this is, I think, 22 millimeters longer than the stock belt. And you will need this. Some people on the Pumaspeed folks told me that people are installing these without a larger belt. And you could, in theory, do that. You know, if you, like I was thinking about it, like how are they doing that? So what they're probably doing is they're, you know, when I installed it and then I tried to put the stock belt on, of course it wasn't this pulley, it was the other pulley. But if you just imagine, like, it was about like that. Like I couldn't stretch it on. And no matter how much, like, brute force I used, I could not stretch it on. Don't forget, dinner at Mom's. So I imagine what they could do, you could get part of it on like this, and then you could just roll it on. If you roll the pulley, it would roll it on, you know. But for my tolerance, that was going to be way too tight. Again, fortunately, you know, I thought about this beforehand, and my buddy Daniel got me a pulley, a belt. He was doing the same part on his car, so he just grabbed two of them, got me one, and gave it to me for free. So I really appreciated that. So I had the pulley on, the belt on hand, and I did install the new belt. Again, I've got the link to that on Amazon there in the description. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but you know, the traditional belt test is that you can turn it less than half a turn, and I'm grabbing on this thing pretty tight, and I cannot get it even a half turn, a half twist. So it's nice and tight, perfect. You know, I feel fine about it. Fit right on there. And again, so you do want to get that larger belt to install this. I would highly recommend that. And then just talking about number two, the install. Real quick, it was pretty easy install. You just want to lift up the car, you know, take this wheel off. Underneath where all the belts go on, there's a little belt cover, and there's just two, I think they're T25s. I just used a flathead screwdriver because it's got a slot also for that. And you take those off, you drop the belt cover, real easy, and watch out, the dust will get all over your face because the cover, of course, is full of grit. And then the first thing I did is I took a 10mm and I loosened those four bolts. I just loosened them. And then I took an 18mm, and you can grab the crank pulley, which I'm not able to see from here or show you, but you can take and put an 18mm socket on the crank pulley, and then you just turn it. And what that does is it turns those four bolts down so you can get them easily from underneath, and that way you don't have to keep coming down, up, down, up, down, up. So you can do it all from down there. Once you do that, you then you grab the tensioner. Tensioner's back there. Pull the tensioner all the way, loosen the belt, real easy. And once you get the belt loose, you can pull the belt off, and then you just take these four 10mm bolts the rest of the way off, and then you pull the pulley off, but it won't come off. I was shocked. So there is not enough space in here to get that off. So then you say the cuss word of choice or make one up, and then you take a pry bar. And what I did was I took a crowbar, and there's just a perfect spot right there on the crank pulley, right on the crank pulley bolt. There's about that much space. So you just put your pry bar between the crank pulley bolt and the frame, and you just push the engine over to the right just a little bit, and then have your Dr. Octopus extra arm or your other hands or your friend or whoever pull the pulley off. It comes right off. Put the new pulley on. Of course, then you let go of the crowbar, and put your four bolts back on, run your belt, tighten the bolts up, put your cover back on, put your wheel back on, blammo, you're done. Pretty simple install. Took about an hour. And the one thing I will say about the install that you need to watch out for is, so I still have stock mounts, but I've got inserts to beef them up a little bit. You can see the yellow insert, but my engine will still move, and I wanted that. I didn't want it to be too, attached, you know, to the car with the solid mount. Didn't want that little clearance. I wanted a little bit of movement, just because of drivability and you know, rattles and whatnot. The car already has a little rattling to it. So anyhow. But as I was prying the engine over, I got to thinking, if you have solid mounts on this car, you may have to actually disconnect them or loosen them or something. You're gonna have to think of something, because with solid mounts, if these two mounts are solid, there's not gonna be any play, and your engine's not gonna move like it needs to get that pulley off. So that's something to think about if you have solid mounts. Just be aware of that. And again, you could just take a mount loose and, you know, just jack the engine. you know, figure all that out, and then it would all work. But anyhow, let me just close and talk about what you're probably caring about knowing here is impressions. Here's the bottom line. I believe in pulleys, again, in my Acura, and there is a video of this on this channel. If you look back from a few years ago, I had a TSX that I put a couple pulleys on, and it really made a noticeable difference. I think with little Honda engines, without a turbocharger, you can notice more. This car with the turbo, because it has so much torque, I didn't notice as much. I will say, I've been modding for many years. I've had a bunch of cars, and I'm somebody that I drive the car. I know how it feels. I know if there's a new rattle. I know if something isn't right. I know if it's got bad gas. I can just feel. I enjoy feeling the car, driving, you know, feeling the input and response from the road and from the car itself, feeling connected. So because of that, probably more than the average person, and I don't think this is placebo, but maybe it is. But I think I have a kind of, you always have an idea of how the car's doing. And I will say that I felt once I got in the car and drove with a pulley, I could feel a little difference, kind of like probably about the same difference as when you pop out your stock paper air filter and you put in like a K&N or a Green. It's just like 5 or 6 horsepower or maybe torque, you know, probably no horsepower, but probably a little bit of torque, maybe a little horsepower, because in theory you are recovering lost horsepower, maybe a little bit of torque because of that. But just enough like that you kind of can't feel it, but you kind of know something's going on. And I know that doesn't make any sense, but if you've ridden in a car with pulley upgrades, you understand. It just feels a little more free and a little less heavy when you give it throttle. So that would be my experience with it. Like I said, I did check the temperatures. Everything is fine. Water temps, air temps. Haven't done the air yet, but I suspect it'll be fine. Is this a must-do mod? I'm gonna say no. I mean, you're over here in America, you're talking about $100 plus the belt, plus the shipping to get it here. So you're gonna be out like 160, 170. Is it a must-do mod? I would say no if you're a casual modder. Me, I got a piggy bank and I had $150 saved up and I was ready to do something and I saw it for sale. So I said, why the heck not? It's an easy install. I'll have fun doing it. To me, it's like half of it's just putting it on, you know, and installing it in the car. And so, you know, it's fun. If you're a purist, yeah, I get it. But if you think you're going to get this part and you're going to suddenly, you know, be really able to notice a difference, I'm going to tell you honestly, you're not. But it is a nice difference. So, you know, it's like I said, if you're a purist, if you just love the car, if you know, love those little details that you can do to change it up and improve it, I would say get it. If you're not, if you're not, you know, as crazy as I am describing myself to be, then skip this one. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me questions and comments if you have them, and be safe. Merry Christmas. God loves you. Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching.